So, hi everyone. Please welcome our next speaker, Snir, who is a CEO and co-founder at Zest Security. Please give him a round of applause. Don't forget, please, if you have any questions, go to BSidesSF.org/Q&A and you can submit your questions at Slido. And now you can join Snir's presentation and maybe answer the question, is vulnerability management dead or not?
So, thank you, Alexandra. Everyone, thanks for coming here. It's a long day, so I'm going to keep it light and fun. And this is like a big topic, and I like it that we have a full house. So it's probably like a pain for all of us, not only for me. So is vulnerability management is dead? I did some stuff there, so you can see that it's probably not a question. So why you should kind of listen to what I had to say. So a little bit about myself. Sold the previous one to Palo Alto. Now it's part of Prisma Cloud. Before that, built and ran the entire cybersecurity practice at Varonis, including product security, incident response, vulnerability management, building the products, 160 people basically. So I did a lot around detecting threats, being in the trenches for incident response and forensics, but also managing internal security for many, many years. Most of the time we failed. And I think right now we have some kind of opportunity to look on the failures and kind of realize how we need to pivot. And this is what this talk is all about. I'm very active in LinkedIn, so if you want to connect and kind of tell me why you think I'm wrong or why you love what you just saw, send me a message. So what we're going to talk about is kind of scoped. So couple of disclaimers. First one, I'm only going to focus on cloud. I'm not going to talk a lot about on-prem. I do believe that a lot of on-prem just solved with patching. And we all kind of like moving to cloud, and cloud is more complex and interesting. And you don't have one way to do things in cloud. This is why it's so much fun. My insights are based on enterprise experience. So if you're dealing with SMBs and small organization, like really small, probably less relevant, maybe. I'm biased. So Zest Security is my company, and we're streamlining remediation and mitigation. So I took this problem and we believe we solve big portion of it. So a lot of my opinions are basically why I built my company. I'm going to give some light spoilers around Severance and White Lotus. So if you're still watching, I'm sorry. Let's get started. So we're going to start with a big research we did around vulnerability management and the reality about it. A lot of the research actually made me I was very surprised to see these numbers. After that, basically, we discover what is the root cause of why vulnerability management is such a pain. And then I'm going to share things that you can do today to basically break the old school mentality of visibility and managing your problems. And at the end, the Q&A, of course. So let's start. So 3, 4, 5 years ago, we all believed that visibility basically going to make your organization better. I think today we're thinking about, does visibility actually make us more secure? And I like to ask a question. If I'm in vacation right now in Mexico drinking margaritas, it's been a long day, so I'm just imagining myself at the beach. And I know that I left my front door open. And let's say I'm actually based in New York City, so let's say it's not Tribeca, but different area, and my front door is open, and it's not a building. So knowing that my front door is open without doing anything about it, does that make me more secure? Probably not, right? Something that we're able to do is to do a research, and we correlated between my backlog of vulnerabilities that we know about, that we open a ticket, into incidents that the SOC team kind of like reviewed. And 62% of these incidents actually tie directly to vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. Again, that was kind of surprising because I thought that, most of the security tools are kind of like, hey, this is pretty cool, you need to fix it. But they actually give us like good visibility of where are our problems. And these problems stem into attacks. Verizon and Mendia just shared last week M-Trends report and also the Verizon report around vulnerability management and incidents. Exploitation of vulnerability now surpass phishing. This is crazy. So is that easy to exploit, and it's that hard to do something about it? It's definitely a mirror that something is wrong. So let's talk about the basics and the things that I want to hope that we're doing already today and why we're still not there. So while I was managing like a couple of teams that do vulnerability management and cloud security and product security, so we're starting with CVSS. And of course, CVSS has a lot of problems, and we're going to talk about some, but we have the Kev, which, to be honest, Kev was great because it's actually give us information about is that vulnerability is being exploited in the wild or not, if we know something about it. And if we want even to take it further, we can kind of like include some stuff with EPSS. The problem with EPSS, of course, lack of context from my current environment. So the way that like threat actor or insider threat or a malicious code can actually do something bad and predict that without context, it's also problematic. But it's good enough to filter, let's say, 50-60% of the noise, so we're leaving the backlog with 2,000, 3,000 critical issues. Let's go a little bit to the more advanced side, which I like, which is threat intelligence. Threat intelligence actually give us a layer on top of Kev that say like, hey, do we have any threat actors, any walking POCs, anything that actually exists right now to exploit these vulnerabilities that my scanners actually identify? And this maybe can filter additional 5-10% of the backlog, which leave us with, 1,000 critical vulnerabilities. So this is a good filtering, but it's not for 2025. And we're still kind of like filtering and filtering and filtering and filtering, and something is just not working. I think something cool that, by the way, I'm giving references, but specifically in this theater, it's cutting the below of the slide. So a lot of the references you're not going to see. So I apologize for that, just for you to know that we have the reference in the slide. As we all know, like in April, like CISA kind of like, hey, the CV project is dead, and thank for a lot of pressure from the community and people that actually care, it's back. But this is another kind of like validation that something is not working. And we're building vulnerability management, we're building threat exposure program in our organization. So me as a security executive, I want to look 3 years ahead. I want to build the OKRs, and I want to understand like, how do I survive and how can I reduce the exposure? Because right now it seems like we don't really have a method that works for everyone or works for most organizations. And let's talk about kind of like more cloud focus, which is not something we can patch, which is misconfigurations. Great companies today build a huge market about, hey, this is not a vulnerability. It's not even a bad practice. It's just like the way you handle in cloud, and it's misconfigured, and it's actually can lead to a lot of kind of attack. Publicly exposable services, sensitive data that is not encrypted and accessible, microservices with ability to privilege escalate, and a lot of other things. So what do we do with that? And is it a part of if misconfiguration supposed to be a part of vulnerability management? It's also a big question. So I want to start with kind of a question. We did a research. This is part of the research, and I want you to raise your hand. How many, and in average, ongoing open ticket for critical vulnerabilities and misconfiguration, a medium-sized to kind of like medium normal-sized enterprise is going to have? I'm saying like an enterprise with more than 1,000 employees with cloud footprint. So let's ask. If you think it's below 50 critical vulnerabilities and misconfiguration in the backlog, raise your hand. Okay, a lot of optimistic people here. If you think it's between 50 to 100, raise your hand. Critical vulnerabilities. Okay, we've seen some hands. Okay, nice. We actually had some organization with like that amount. If you think it's between 150 to 100 critical vulnerabilities and misconfiguration in the backlog after prioritization, raise your hand. Wow, you guys are good. Okay. And if you think it's between 150 to 200, raise your hand. Okay. This is why I like BSides, because people actually know what they're doing. So this is like, what about reachability, right? So everybody heard about reachability. We had a couple of conversation with not CISO, but the people who are managing exposure in enterprises. And they basically told me a couple of times, different people, we are only prioritizing publicly exposed assets. If they have vulnerability, if they're part of misconfiguration, this is our highest priority. This is what we do. This is what's going into Jira. This is what's going into ServiceNow. Great. So you're all right. I want to kind of give you like, this is the first time you actually nailed it, guys. Like, really, this is great. Over 100 critical vulnerabilities and misconfiguration in the backlog with over 100 companies that we talked to, and we did that research. So each and every one of these companies have visibility, prioritize vulnerabilities and misconfiguration, open a ticket to remediate or mitigate or whatever, and it's in the backlog, ongoing backlog of 100 plus vulnerabilities and misconfiguration. I want to pause right here and let's ask the question of this talk. Is vulnerability management dead? I think so. So we took a couple of steps forward and we asked questions that we don't know the answer. And we asked this team to actually look into the ticketing system, look into the project, and actually give us answers. So 49% is actually because they need time to understand the best path for resolution. Can I patch? Do I need to patch? Is there a patch code? Do I need to change it in the code? Do I need to change it in production? 26% saying like a lot of the time going into risk that we cannot remediate. We cannot remediate sometimes. So for example, the healthcare we talk to, they say like, hey, it's business critical. There is no way we can patch. There is no way we can do something about it. It's like, okay, so what do you do? It's like, first of all, we need to talk to everyone to try to patch it. And then we understand that we cannot do anything about it. And then we need to build a plan. And 25% of the people kind of say like the amount of time and effort required from other department is basically something that takes the most amount of time to actually solve the problem. So I will kind of caps it into effort-based, right? Like, what is the effort that other people, because security team are not fixing, right? So what is the effort that will require the business in order to do something about it? So let's go even deeper. So it's like, okay, what do you do it right now? So between 6 to 8 working days per month, a security engineer is spending on prioritization and analysis of visibility from threat exposure tools for CSPM, CSA, the software composition analysis, cloud security posture management, vulnerability management scans. 6 to 8 days a month, just prioritization. After that, almost a month go over remediation of misconfiguration. So no vulnerability, just changing configuration within the cloud environment. And this is something that I was kind of surprised about. sometimes more than 8 weeks in total to remediate application vulnerabilities. So actually changing things in the cloud infrastructure is easier to many of the companies today than to fix something in application. That's kind of weird because how many DevOps people you have versus how many developers you have. It's interesting. Something more interesting is like 87% of more of 4 people involved in this entire process. So I will just ask a question related to that. Do you think software composition analysis vulnerabilities are part of the vulnerability management and exposure management team versus application security team? If you think software composition analysis vulnerabilities are part of the application security team, raise your hand. Okay, if you think software composition analysis relevant for the team that managing vulnerability management or cloud security posture management, raise your hand. Exactly. So that's also a problem because some of these vulnerabilities are in the container level, some of them in the base image, some of them are in the application, some of them not related to the developers, some of them related to infrastructure. But who is the owner? How many people we need to talk to? What's going on here? So again, this is like one of the like what's going on? And the people that managing the vulnerability management also, like I asked him, it's like, why you're not managing software composition analysis finding? And they're like, oh, this is upside. It's like, yeah, but who is managing the base images and patching? It's like us. It's like, so how? And then we nail down why is it so important? Like, why do we care? It's like, why do we need to do it better? Why we that in charge of security really care about our exposure, our vulnerabilities? Like, why? The TTE, based on Mandiant, which, again, they're seeing so many incidents, the time to exploit reduced to 5 days. Some exploitation, sometimes less than an hour, since the actual vulnerability was released. So basically, if it takes us 3 to 8 weeks to remediate a problem that we know it's a problem that we prioritize, you know what? The prioritization takes us 6 days and another like 3 to 4 weeks to actually do something about it. So basically, we're left with like a window for exploitation that is impossible. And this is kind of like, why do we actually care? So again, now we're kind of talking about the problem, right? Why vulnerability management today is kind of like being like on a short leash. This is my favorite scene in White Lotus, by the way. That was like, just book a trip to Thailand after that. 50% of risk cannot be remediated. So half of your backlog, more than half of your backlog, will ended up with 2 things. Accept risk. Everybody loves to accept risk right now, right? It's like, it's amazing. Let's accept it because R&D cannot fix or cannot do anything about it. And some things have no patch. So do you run, like a lot of people knew the answer for the beginning, so you're hands-on. How many vulnerabilities you have from your scanners that if you go to remediation or if you go to the vendor, there is no patch available? At least 20% of the findings, you have no patch available. How many of these vulnerabilities related to assets that are not in production right now? So a lot of things cannot be remediated. How many of the things cannot be remediated because the dev team don't want to close your tickets? Right? How many of these things cannot be remediated because this system cannot be touched? So I'm talking about remediation as a kind of a surgery. So if you have a back pain, you can sometimes go and do a surgery, but sometimes it doesn't worth it. Not for you, not for your family. You can actually live with the pain. And that's like the whole idea of what do I do with the problems I have and why sometimes like I can't fix them. And now let's talk about what, from my experience, actually work and how we need to look differently at vulnerability management. Raise your hand if you have an incident response plan. Everyone. Yeah, of course. What about the risk remediation plan? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, some of you have. That's great. This is what we need to work on. So the survivor kit, let's do it. Visibility scanners, SCA, CSPM, solve. You can even use open source. They're great. You don't need to spend $1 million on them. Unified data layer, this is what you need. It's not that hard, and you can get it with any type of data repository, just to put everything in one place. The third one is updated cloud inventory with enrichment. Which type of cloud assets you have, if they're publicly accessible, if they contain sensitive data, and so on. Every CSPM have it, and you should have it. And then let's go more advanced. DevOps correlation, crazy. What is being managed by DevOps? What is not being managed by DevOps? What's being managed by Terraform? What's being managed by CloudFormation? I will explain why it's so important, but you need to have this information to help you to pivot. Docker, Kubernetes, Artifactory base image mapping. So which of the containers related to which base images? Some of it, it's easy. Some of it, it's tough. GCP make it very hard, for example. So GCP actually kind of wrapping the wrapper, and sometimes it's hard to correlate. If using Kubernetes, you need to look into the Kubernetes in order to do the correlation. Cloud guardrails. This is crazy. This is, I think, something new that I want to share with everyone today, and mitigating control coverage. So if today you have Cloudflare, if you have a SASE, if you have this type of solution that can block attacks, should I prioritize it as critical and high or not? This is the next one. Oh, I forgot to mention. Secure by design. We're doing secure by design and we don't have any critical vulnerabilities in production. When I hear that, I just stop talking to this guy because they have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, we have no vulnerability because we have secure by design. What about the vulnerabilities and misconfiguration that happened today? Great. So the enrichment and context are free. What does it mean? We get CVSS, KEV, and threat intelligence. You have great resources. I love Volcheck, by the way. It's a great company. They're doing great threat intelligence. They have open source. Public, external access. Look on VPC, look on gateways and your cloud assets. Metadata, easy. Extract it from your load balancer, CDN as well, easy. Business criticality. You know better than each vendor which type of system and application are critical. Tag them. Tag the repos, tag the system, tag the identities, tag the assets. And then reachability. Cloud API, easy. Just ask what is actually in the cloud related to cloud inventory. Moderate is look on the events like AWS CloudTrail. Look what is running, who is authenticating. Just take the asset ID. This is actually very useful to remove a lot of SCA vulnerabilities. Advanced runtime, but it costs money. And drift. Easy, ask the DevOps. Let's hope the DevOps know. Most of the time they know. I love DevOps. They know what they're doing. Moderate is read logs. Advanced, map your infrastructure as code and Terraform, state, and plan, and CloudFormation, and Pulumi, and the rest. So this is the enrichment we need to do. Why infrastructure as code correlation is cool, I will give you an example. So first of all, uncover where the risk resides. So if right now I have a misconfiguration, I open a ticket, DevOps or engineering is getting the ticket, they following the CSPM remediation, they go into the console, they're applying the fix. A week after, the same problem happened again in a different Lambda function. This is a secret in Lambda because we have it in environment variable in Terraform. Great, every time Terraform deployed, it adds the secret. They didn't fix it in Terraform, they fix it in the console, they're fucked because it's coming back over and over and over again. This is why you need to understand what introduced the problem to the environment from the get-go. This is why you need to understand and have visibility to DevOps systems. Cloud guardrails. I want to spend some time here because this is something cool that I discovered to be super useful. So in AWS, for example, service control policies and resource control policies. So you can basically use this policy if something cannot be remediated. So think about as mitigation control. What we're showing in this example is, again, secret in Lambda functions. So you have some microservices that are running secrets, great. You need to kind of like manage them in a vault, amazing. But what if you can't do it? What if you can't do it right now? So the way the attackers are working is they're basically querying those Lambda functions and accessing these secrets. You can basically create this service control policy to deny any type of service or any type of malicious activity that taking and asking for those configuration, those tokens. You didn't fix the problem, but you reduced the exploitability in 80%. Boom. Mitigating control. So great example is the Next.js, which we all know. It happened in Saturday. Like our teams, my customers went wild. It was bad. But great news, you have WAF, you have SASE, you have Akamai SIG, for example, that actually monitoring, they have blocking mode and it's all good. So you can chill in this Saturday and you can remediate maybe next week. Involve your mitigating control in your vulnerability management, but vulnerability management is dead. So involve your mitigating controls. This is super important. Take a step back, take 2 step backs, look on your environment, look on your technical DNA and understand what's going on, but do not get addicted to it because mitigating control can be bypassed. Remediation is the goal at the end of the day, but we need to know how to live with our risk and reduce them as fast as possible. If you remember, TT is 5 days. So a lot of the things I mentioned cannot be automated. I cannot do all my slides, I have no time. A lot of the things cannot be automated. This is where AI coming into place. And AI, it's critical. What we can do with AI that automation cannot do, we just talked about it today a couple of times. Every problems for vulnerability management and cloud misconfiguration have at least 5 or 6 solutions. For 5 or 6 solutions for each and every different environment, different every project, it's not something you can automate. It's not easy. It's not tier 1 SOC. You need to use AI, for example, in order to do things that are not automation, that are based on the circumstance. And you need to feed AI with why you want to do what you want to do. So you can actually automate a lot of the triage and decision making, as long as you have the enrichment and the visibility of DevOps and vulnerabilities that we just talked about. So that's it. I think my last word about it, and I needed to mention AI. AI is critical for us to move and to reach the 5-day time to exploit. So I know everyone's saying AI, but because all of these things that I mentioned are basically free, and you can actually build them in-house, or you can kind of buy solution to do that, but you can actually do it. It's a lot of work. Use AI on top of that information, and you're almost golden. This is really powerful. Thank you so much. Questions? Q&A, we have time?
We have 2 minutes, so one question. Firstly, round of applause, please. We don't have anything in the Q&A, so if you have a question.
Everyone want to shout a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Snir. Great talk. Quick question around the last recommendation here, which is AI is going to help solve this, right? Which is, you can throw a lot of different context and code at it, and you're going to get different results based on which model you use or, what time of day and where Mercury is in retrograde, right? And so how do you get those that are a bit more definitive remediation results that will actually help you plug gaps, mitigate or provide, some kind of remediation along the path? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's basically different LLMs are good with different things. I think cloud misconfiguration, the way, for example, just one example, to know if infrastructure as code can mitigate that specific problem, use AI to take your infrastructure as code files and take the misconfiguration with the idea of the vulnerable cloud assets and ask, hey, is this cloud asset exist in any one of my Terraform files? That's basically a forensics that a security engineer is doing and sometimes doing mistake. Another example is if I have one single patch that can basically remediate a large number of CVEs. So AI can basically do a lot of automation based on your environment and say like, hey, if you install this specific patch, you can take all those containers with all these different CVEs and with one single patch, effort-based remediation basically to do that. So we use AI because the information is changing about our environment and the information is changing from the vendor recommendation. If you provide AI these two information speed, this is my environment, this is the information, this is the scanning information. What is the best course of action based on patching? Patching is good, for example, with the O3 model, or Anthropic is great with reviewing code and kind of giving you infrastructure as code deterministic fix based on the secret manager you're using. If it's, HashiCorp, or if it's like AWS Secret Manager, and if you're using it in Terraform, for example, give that information to AI without your secrets, please, and get the results. And again, if you use AI for those things, please make sure you do not send code or information to the API calls outside. You have a lot of ways to do it in a secure way. And that's a great question, but it's definitely a talk about how we can take each and every one of the issues and use different LLMs in order to automate a lot of things that it's almost impossible to automate.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone.